Welcome all the participants who have joined. Welcome all the members who are on the panel, who are making presentations today. Thank you very much. This particular meeting, this is not a conventional webinar. You know, INHAF has been doing webinars now for 12 months. And a number of people asked me today and yesterday whether this is one more webinar. This is not a webinar. This is a debriefing session for the competition that we are organizing. And this is mainly for the potential contestants who will participate in this competition. This competition is called National Ideas Competition on Improving Livability of Small Houses. To the second season of the competition, we had it earlier, a year and a half ago, and a very interesting response. And because we believe this is a very educative and very relevant competition, we essentially are doing what we call the second season of the competition. And I think I'll come back and share with you a little more in terms of the contents of the competition. But let me briefly tell you, I think, why we are holding this very special session this afternoon. First is obviously share as much information as possible on this competition. Lots of people tell me, and I think I myself think that way, it is not an average conventional competition. It's a different kind of competition. And therefore, it's very important to share with people what is it and why is it. Second important thing is this, and those who have seen the brochure. Normally speaking, a brochure of a competition like this would be a 3-page document. Ours is a 33-page document. And the reason is very simple. The reason is simple in the sense that we're not looking only to inform competence people who are participating. We also are using this opportunity to sensitize people, to take the message across to people about the whole issue of shelter, housing for the people who are going to live in smaller houses, in terms of what is the challenge of design, what is the challenge of building. So idea is not only just tell people what is the competition, how to participate. Idea is to take the entire message of the challenge of designing and building smaller houses. Another important change that we made this time in the competition is this. It was there last time, but it wasn't very visible. And in the process, we also didn't have too many entries. But this year, we also have put very special emphasis and attention on projects dealing with slum dwellers. We have a special reference and emphasis on projects, and we are very keen to get people and projects dealing with slum rehabilitation, slum improvement, slum in situ improvement, and all that. So that is an additional feature, and I'll come back and talk about the other parts, of the competition features. Second, besides sharing the information, we also intend in this particular meeting to clear and clarify questions or the doubts that the participants may have, which also means answering questions on any aspect of the competition. One of the things that even last time we have done as a culture of the competition, most of the time when you announce a competition, you tend not to communicate with contestants. We have been absolutely different. We have encouraged people to communicate. We have continuously written to people. We are in touch with people. We, as a matter of fact, in almost decision-making, we have taken permission and views and understanding of the participants. Say, for instance, last year, this particular competition was announced way back in March last year. And when the COVID intensified, and when there was a suggestion that we defer the competition, we didn't do it on our own. We wrote to all some 80, 90 people who had by that time registered, saying, should we do this? Do you think you'll be able to kind of go through the process while the COVID is raging, or do you think we should postpone the competition? And a good number of people said postpone it, and we froze the competition for a long time. So we listened to participants and encourage communication as much as possible. In order to kind of make this briefing well-informed, what we have done is we have invited a fairly good group of people. We have 8 or 9. We have, I think, 3 or 4 jury members today in this session, and they will be talking and explaining how they see it. We also have, I think, 3 sponsors of this event. We have YUVA, who is sponsoring this competition. We have Jayesh Bhai, his office, which is sponsoring this competition, and we obviously have INHAF, which is sponsoring this competition, and we also have invited 2 representatives of the people who are contesting. And we are very fortunate to find 2 wonderful young architects. Both of them have completed, and they're going to be here telling us why they are competing and what are the kind of, what are they looking forward to, and if they have any questions. I just want to take 1 minute or 2 minutes to just to tell about India Habitat Forum, which has been working on this competition. INHAF is a national coalition of people and organizations working on human settlement issue. It's something which have been working on studies, research, policy advocacy, program development, NGOs, professionals, civic groups, community groups, young students, and academic institutions and professional training institutions are INHAF's constituency. INHAF essentially is given to asking questions. It asks questions all the time about development, absence of development, lack of development, quality of development, impact of development, exclusion and inclusion in development. Essentially very deeply committed to asking questions about development, not to criticize, but to come up with alternatives, come with better ideas. I essentially wanted to take 7 more minutes to tell more about this competition, because as I said, it's a competition which is not very simple. Idea is this, that large number of houses are being built under affordable category, both by the private sector and the public sector. As you know, just under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, 10.2 million houses are being built. It's being built in 5 years. Progress is fairly good. And therefore, in the next few years, the cities of the country will see a good number of affordable housing. Now, this affordable houses essentially, by definition, are small houses. They're small in terms, they're largely undersized. They are, in terms of space, suboptimal. And this is largely because of affordability constraints. You have land scarcity, you have affordable income limitations, and the state, which is trying to kind of intervene and subsidize, also has limitation because a large number of houses are going to be built. So that what is really happening is this, and there obviously is a need to ask questions about size of the houses, because size matters. But at this point of time, it is not really possible. You could accept this as a given. And therefore, large number of houses are getting built, which are 320 square feet and 350 square feet and 400 square feet. Now, these houses essentially are houses in which large number of families are going to stay. As a matter of fact, children will grow there. A whole generation, maybe it's 2 generations of people will grow and become citizens of the country. And therefore, it's very important that these houses are good. These houses are spacious, even though small. These houses are livable. These houses are well serviced. These houses have better ventilation. These houses, the way they are built, are sustainable in the context of water and electricity and solid waste and all that. Now, unfortunately, what is happening is this, that even though large number of these houses are being built, not much attention is being paid, or if attention being paid, is not really visible in terms of improving livability. And when we talk about improving livability, we are talking about the functional livability. We are talking about social livability in terms of neighbors and interaction with people. We are talking about climatic and environmental livability and all those kind of things. And it's a tall order. And we thought it was absolutely necessary to really reach out to young designers, young professionals, to tell them what is involved in designing good, affordable houses. And I think when we talk about designers, we're not talking about only architects and engineers and interior people or planners. We are also talking about NGOs. We are talking about, I think, community groups. We are talking about, I think, people who are not necessarily, I think, called designers, but play a role in that happening. So idea was not to kind of remain confined to the formal professionals. Idea is to really reach out and attract and bring in all kind of people whom we could say describe as designers. Coming very quickly, and I think in 2 more minutes, to what is that this competition is asking those who are taking part. We essentially, and I mentioned this earlier, that this competition is slightly different, where we are not asking people to sit on their computers, sit in their offices, or sit in their studios and design house 1 or A or B. We essentially are asking for 3 things. Number one, we are saying, please catch hold of a project of a good size between 150 houses, 200 houses, but not very small, reasonable size. Be that private sector project, public sector project, being done by a government agency, done by a private agency, done by a big builder, small builder, whatever. But get hold of that project and do its SWOT analysis. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? What needs to be added in the context of what we said, improving livability, and redesign the entire project. So the first part that we are asking from each of the participants is how is to redesign an existing project. And this could be existing in the sense that it has been built up earlier and houses are already constructed, or it is in the pipeline where I think the design process is still going on, or it is under construction where part of it has been built, which really means that anyone who's participating in this competition has to relate with someone who is developing a big project or has already developed a big project. So the first part is interaction and looking at a relatively large project and studying it and doing its detailed analysis. And then getting into the whole process of redesigning it in every conceivable way. Redesign units, redesign, I think, composition, redesign site plan, redesign services, look at the cost, look at efficiency and everything. But that is the first part. The second important part in terms of deliverables is we are asking each one that please tell us what kind of changes you will require to see in building bylaws so that your design becomes implementable. Now, there's a deep thinking about this particular asking, because most of the people who participate in this competition, especially students, are not necessarily aware about the building bylaws. And building bylaws are very important in our country in terms of determining the shape and the size of the program. And we also know that not much thought has gone into design and developing this building bylaws. Therefore, the second question we are asking to each one is this, that please tell us what changes you would require in building bylaws. And when Udani makes presentation about his winning competition, he will talk about this more. But this is something very important. Idea is to really bring them into the reality, is not only design, but design that in the context of the framework of building bylaws, of regulatory framework. That's the second thing we are asking people to submit. And the third thing, which I think is the most important in my judgment, we're asking each contestant to produce 2 case studies of innovations that the people themselves have made. What one is saying is this, that houses are not necessarily or exclusively built by designers. People who live in them also make changes, and many times they make very interesting, very innovative changes. So that's the third thing that we are asking them to present. Now, this is, and of course, the aspects of costing, aspects of sustainability, aspects of neighbor is something very important. Like, say, for instance, we're living in an era, we are living in a situation where you buy an apartment costing 4 crore, but you don't have a choice of a neighbor. And choice in our society, neighbor in our society, is a huge social asset. and therefore going into the social dimension of people dimension of design as well. And therefore, and I think this will come out, I think while we discuss more, but these are the aspects that we are looking into. And we hope that we have a good number of people participating. And as I said, we are asking all kinds of people, not only confined to architects and designers and interior people. We want community groups to come in. We want NGOs to come in. We want government officers and people who have developed such projects to come in and share their understanding and contribute to ideas development in terms of how to improve livability of small houses. So that finishes my introductory part. Sorry, a little longer, but I thought it was necessary. What I suggest is this, that we have two wonderful contestants, and I would like to start with them, who have decided to participate. They have registered, and we wrote to all of them, and then we're able to kind of get two of them to come and participate in this meeting. I would ask both of them to kind of come. Shall we start with Supriya Tende? Supriya is a young architect, just finished. Supriya, would you come in and share why are you participating? What do you think are the challenges? And if you have any questions. And then, of course, we'll take Sneha Sharma, same questions and the view. Can we start with you, Supriya?
Yes, sir.
Supriya.
Good evening to all the participants here. And I am Supriya. I am from Mumbai. And I am always keen in participating in the current crucial issues which need attention on the designing part and which can shape up the urban landscape. So I feel this competition is of very much importance, and it should be in a creative manner. It should focus on all the aspects which shape up a good lifestyle of a smaller housing. So I'm sharing how I have perceived this competition. So this is all about improving the livability of the smaller housing. So now currently what I see is the smaller housing, due to the space constraints or due to the constraints of the local bylaws, the lifestyle is cramped in smaller houses. So I feel that by understanding the requirements of what the community needs for their interaction, for their livability, increasing the livability. So how can we increase that? So I'm just giving an example. You have to just take a current project, existing project, or it might be completed in 1 or 2 years, and you have to see for an urban location, and it should have 300 units. After selecting this, you go for a SWOT analysis. Identify what are the strengths, weaknesses of your location, of the project, and then you have to start imagining. I feel the first layer is where we understand what is exactly smaller housing and what are the problems in that. And in the second part, you just visualize how can this housing can be upgraded, how can this lifestyle be upgraded, how can the environment for smaller children or for the upcoming fewer generations, how can we improve that? As architects or planners or urban designers, focus on the sustainability. See if the services which are being delivered to that project are in a sustainable way or not. You can think of, so I'm just giving an example. If the current project which you have selected has 3 meters in height, and if you are wishing to have a increased height, so you can change this, you can change the, like you can give a suggestion to the existing bylaws that I want this space height, this space constraint to be increased, or understand the local bylaws where your project is. First, and after understanding this, you will definitely understand what are your constraints in the design, whatever design you are imagining, and what are the constraints you are facing. So you will definitely come up with this, what steps you can take to increase the livability. Now, I'm just giving an example. Now, say suppose of MADA, or you can say the urban incremental housing. The quality, like the community sense, is lost in the towers, you can say, because there is not much community sense left in cities. So, what can you do to increase that the feeling of connectivity, to the feeling of everything should be in the social interaction. So there are certain factors that you must understand, that what needs attention to be given. So you just focus like that ki, how socially, how psychologically you can increase the livability of these houses. How can you make these cramped houses look more aesthetic? How can you make these houses more functionable? How can you increase the functionality of these houses? So you can start off with that. And just to begin with this, after you realize that what are the gaps between your design and between the local bylaws, after understanding these gaps, look for case studies where addition of a certain space to the existing space, how can it make a difference? So that can like start your imagination process, that how can you upgrade the living. So in the deliverables part, like there are like 3 things. First is the case studies, 2 case studies where how can you enhance the space enhancement case studies, I can tell them as be it anywhere, just you have to explain how these spaces is adding value to your design, or it is how it is adding value to the entire unit. So after think of such more, and then you can maybe club them into one single one single, or you can club all the concepts together and form a design which has all the sensitivity towards environment. Also you can go for, like you can think of different materials. How can you reduce the cost of these affordable houses? Can you like change the, can you see by changing the materials, or where the like you have to just think how can you improve the existing condition. So and what I would add to this, you must take this competition as a creative process, as a golden opportunity where you can just showcase your ideas, how can you make the current scenario better in terms of in terms of social interactions, or in terms of community relationships. So you must think of that in a positive way. So and like 2 things, one concept sheet, how what are your basic, you can sketch some sections and edit them, or you can draw some perspectives, or any mode where you can just showcase your design or showcase your concept. What is your basically concept of it, and how are you overlaying your concept on this the project you have selected. Then understand the site context of the project, wherever you select the project, understand the local bylaws of this. And what I would add to this is, also you can see to it that how can you reduce the water consumption? How can you reduce the energy? How can you save the energy? So these are the other, I can say, a green touch to this project. How can you upgrade it in all the possible ways? Because this needs much more much more design intervention. This topic, it is very crucial for maybe urban planners or architects or any organization who wishes to have a better future, a better design future, or which can have a greater impact on changing the lifestyles of people. So it does not necessarily mean that small houses should mean just adjustment only.
Right.
Small houses can also be great.
Supriya, since we have so many more speakers, can I request you to sort of sum it up? There are many questions that have come on the chat box already.
Yes.
Maybe can I request Shirish Berry architect Shirish Berry to speak for about 2-3 minutes to see what you want to share as a message with the other with the participants, Mr. Berry.
Yes.
Thank you, Supriya.
So yes, I would sum it up in this three things. Okay, there are 3 components. You understand how your design is, understand the bylaws, and then see to it that how can you upgrade it, and think in all possible ways. Think in sustainability aspect. Think in like how can you increase the social interactions, and a very all the best, I would say. And it is a very golden chance to exhibit your ideas, and it can also, let's see.
Oh, thank you. After architect Shirish Berry, Anand of IGBC, I will request you to speak for a while to share a message for the people. Architect Berry.
Thank you, Hari. I just wanted to ask, Supriya was a previous participant, or she's going to participate in this particular competition?
No, sir. I am very new to this competition. I hadn't participated earlier.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, almost everything, most of it has been said and mentioned by Kirti, as well as in the brochure which is very elaborate. So I would just like to say a few words on my thinking and experience in this area. For me, whenever I've dealt with these issues, it has always been an opportunity to learn about how these people live with minimal resources, how they innovate, and how their necessity becomes the mother of their invention. So I personally would request all the participants to take it as a learning event also, whereby they can learn a lot from the way the common people think and the common people build, you know. And we as trained professionals should start from this learning and design further. The design parameters here are very different from the typical residence clients that we encounter. So my first request to all participants would be, and if I was a participant, this is what I would do. This, I'm just trying to say how I would look at it, is to start with an absolutely blank and a clean slate, without any prejudices, biases, and conditionings, and study the way these people live, and design in the best possible way. It may be a good idea to put oneself in the shoes of, in their shoes in all ways, as far as income goes, affordability goes, availability of space, daily schedule that these people have, the family structure, the relationship with the family and with the community. So if we can put ourselves in their shoes, we may be able to do a better job. Another interesting thing which I've seen in these low-cost houses is the way in which they use discarded materials and recycled resources. So can we as architects or as designers, can we bring in more such materials to reduce the embodied energy of their habitat? Like here, my house here in Kolhapur is built mostly from waste materials and material which was discarded by people at different sites and different places. And I'm happy. There's a sense of satisfaction of living in a place which has minimum embodied energy. So can a good design ensure good natural light and ventilation, which in turn will reduce the end-use energy of the place? Can we think of environmentally friendly, not only a house, but a whole community as such? Can we have common rainwater harvesting? Can we have common sewage treatment? Can we have common vegetable gardens? Could we have a common poultry? Or when we do a housing, like many of these people have some side things also, like a couple of sheep, a couple of some hens also. So can we do that? And also, can our designs establish a symbiotic relationship with everything natural around us, or bring in nature in such a way that the houses have that symbiotic relationship with nature? Because only that kind of relationship will help in enhancing the livability of any house. Another issue that I would look at if I were to design this would be multiple use of spaces and resources, because it's a very worthwhile idea, and which is happening in most of these houses. But we as designers, can we take it a little further? Then innovative economical structural systems and materials can also help in cost saving. So it would be good to team up with some good structural designers and good architects, and work in such a way that the basic structure itself is very economical. And it can happen in many ways. Then cost, here the affordability and cost has two aspects, as in every project. It's the initial construction cost, as well as the recurring maintenance and other costs, which also are important. So if you use very flimsy materials and all that, then the further recurring maintenance cost will go up. So we have to balance these two. And finally, I would like to say that the professional and personal reward for me in some of similar projects is mainly the smile on the user's faces. Like when we go to that site later, when I've really worked on and designed and developed certain neglected public spaces, there's nothing there. I mean, it was being used in a very bad way. So when I went and did that, and after it was being used by the local people and the slum inhabitants around, I was so happy to see that smile on their faces. So rather than that, their huge professional fees, let us concentrate on the happiness and the well-being of these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirish. Anand, can I ask you to speak? And before you, if you say yes, I will get you in. Anand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, wonderful. To the rest of you, first, my very warm congratulations for signing up for this remarkable design contest. And as Shirish Berry also told you, this is the brochure is very comprehensive, gives you as much in detail as you will want to. Beyond that, there are a few questions on the chat box that I'm seeing. We will address them, but I would request you to listen to some of these professionals who have spent over a quarter century, many of them 3 or 4 decades. 𝗘𝗃𝗀 himself has spent 50 years in this segment. And they all brought not just excellence, they brought dedication, passion, commitment of a kind that is extraordinary. What this design can mean to you is another thing you should reflect upon. Let me also tell you that this is not a race. There are no winners, really speaking. Though there are, of course, a few of these things that will be awarded. The jury and everybody at INHAF are in full consensus that every single person who enters this competition will secure a certificate of participation, which will be something that will be part of your own career trajectory as you go along. I'm not going to talk about the aspects of design or anything else. 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗊𝗃 has spoken to you at great detail. You heard architect Shrewsbury, a remarkable architect, and he comes, as you can see, from a certain set of healthy prejudices of a certain kind that he has practiced. As discerning young minds, I'm sure that you will employ your own, you will apply your own mind to it. You will try and see what you want to present. And as all three of them, as both of them have said, and I'm now also reiterating that innovation is the key. How do you look at the future? How do you bring in factors that make settlements future ready is what they're in effect saying. I acknowledge the presence of Dr. Geeta Vaidyanathan from the Sri Sri University in Cuttack. Thank you for being here, Geeta. And I know I am very happy to see many of your students of the last year who are now professional certified architects in practice, I suppose, in some ways, also present here. And I'm certain that they will that they will enter this design competition. It's a great learning exercise beyond everything else. That is all I want to tell you all, youngsters who are present here. Now I turn the mic, I give it to Anand. Anand has spent about 25 years in CII and in IGBC. He's among the original set of officers in IGBC starting the beginning of this century. And Anand has been training multiple projects he has been working on when it comes to elements of sustainability. And as you know, as you heard others speak earlier on, as Supriya also said, you can even take an existing building and look for retrofit solutions. It is not necessary that you look for only new projects. Over to you, Anand.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Good evening and namaskar to all the students and very respected jury members, and thanks for 𝗘𝗃𝗃 Saab for involving IGBC also. So as I am also part of this journey, thanks to Dr. Chandrasekhar Hariharan and architect Jayesh and others who have introduced me. And this is one of the loveliest brochure I have seen in the recent past. It's amazing. I keep repeatedly seeing it again and again every single day. The way in which it brings up our thought process itself, the way in which you go through the photographic as well as the content, how to participate, how to sensitize, how to demonstrate. It's an amazing opportunity for all the young students who have joined us in this evening in order to showcase. So as you are all experiencing for the last 14, 15 months about the COVID, so the lives and livelihoods are very important. Especially we need to have an entire community which are resilient of all the pandemics as well as the global warming also. So I see, as Dr. Chandrasekhar Hariharan mentioned, I see this as beyond a competition. Definitely this is a competition. There is a guideline, there is a directive, there is a deadlines. So I, as an young architect, I would love to see, or I would urge every student who is listening to all of us to see this beyond as a competition. How you are able to shape up the lives and livelihoods. Last year it was livelihoods. When the number of COVID patients have gone up 4 lakhs per day, and even forget about the livelihoods, we are all started focusing on the lives. So how we are going to see through that particular lens in answering all the challenges right in front of us, as well as the global community after the Paris Agreement. We are all marching towards net zero, and especially with 1.4 billion people as a population in India, and with all the tropical challenges, we have enormous amount of challenges right in front of us. So the next 10 years is a very, very defining period as an individual. If I see involved in the sustainability, 2021 to 2030 is going to decide what you are going to offer to the entire the children and the future generations. So I see this particular competition which talks about improving livability of small houses. In fact, we in Indian Green Building Council, IGBC, trust a lot on affordable homes or slum rehabilitation. We have a lot of projects to share with. So as far as this competition, I'll keep it very brief. Tongue in cheek, I can always say that some of the projects, we feel that we should use the software tools like energy modeling or the windrows diagram, or optimizing all the resources. As architect 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 mentioned about being in touch with the good structural engineers to reduce the amount of steel or a concrete without compromising on the quality, sustainability, on the livability, whatever. So my request is to all the young students is these software techniques and tools has to be applied for both existing and new small houses and projects also. So that is my one request. And most of the software tools are available in abundance for free of cost also. So all my request to all the young architects who are about to participate, or the professionals who are willing to participate in this competition, is use the software tools. So it is equally important for affordable housing, whether it is a flat or a tall or a lean one. So this is all we don't want to miss this opportunity in order to understand the challenges these small houses or these kind of affordable housing project. It will be a great learning experience, not only for the participants, for all of us, number one. Number two, there is enormous amount of trust from the government, both at the central, state, as well as the various developers are also in IGBC. They are actively involved in affordable housing, which is a very, very pioneering thing. In fact, in the last 2 to 3 years, most of our projects are in affordable housing category, aligned with the housing for all scheme of things. So whatever you are going to propose with the consent of jury members, it will be a great learning experience to carry forward, be it the design, construction techniques, or the material. 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 mentioned about the embodied carbon. I'm equally interested about embodied carbon as well as operational carbon also. So when these houses become operational, if it is a new one or a deep retrofit in an existing small houses, how they are going to consume less water, less energy, especially with this kind of a pandemic or any concerns. We would love to have a natural sunlight, which is the best sanitizer, and the fresh air, which sanitizes every living home and living spaces for any living home, especially on the affordable category. So for me, how we are going to use these tools in order to further enhance the daylighting, the ventilation, material optimization. The key word for me here, please underline optimization. Right in front, right from starting from the design optimization to the material, the space available for will be very brief, as well as the amount of steel and others. How do we optimize? That's one key word. So how we are able to provide them a resilient, reliable, and sustainable houses, be it a small or a tall or a big or an existing or a new one. That is the one which I would love to focus more. And to put it in a nutshell, how we are going to enhance the quality of the life. So we are all a part of the society. We cannot say that enhancing the quality of the life is only for the guys who are buying a crore and 3 crores worth of a property or a villa or a high rise. No, not at all. We in IGBC, especially, we believe in enhancing the quality of the life of every single living being on the planet here. So how I see this opportunity in order to find the solutions. Together we have to find the solutions. One, in bringing down the entire embodied and operational carbon. Bringing in these software tools are equally applicable and makes it very effective in the design and the specifications. How we can bring in the Indian tradition of living in the courtyards. Again, I quote 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 quoting the community kitchen, having a poultry, the green roofs, heat island effect, all that, whatever we are doing, hundreds of green features implemented in every single green building project should be implemented in this category also. So I leave it here, and we in IGBC are all available for whatever the resources, young students, you would love to know more about. If it is available at IGBC, it is available for you all. You can call us, contact us. Over to you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Anand. And before I invite Jayesh Haryani, architect, Jayesh from Ahmedabad. Well, 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 was speaking from Kolhapur. Then Supriya was speaking from Bombay, I think. Our 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 was speaking from Ahmedabad. Jayesh again is speaking from Ahmedabad. I am from Bangalore. To the rest of you, before I hand it over to Jayesh, let me respond to a couple of questions that have come in the chat box. One is from Vitasta Reina. Is this specific to urban areas, or can housing for rural areas also be included in the scope of the competition? Certainly, rural housing can be taken. absolutely nothing that prevents you from doing so. You heard, 𝗘𝗃𝗧𝗍𝗃 speak earlier, and he has worked on rural settlements too for many years, many decades. Slum dwelling, rehabilitation, any, improvements or enhancements in design that you can bring in situ for such settlements are all part of design challenges that you can take up. Next question for the competition: can we go ahead with site appropriate measures, which may not necessarily bring in incentive or increment, but a better qualitative service? Can we, you're also wanting to know, this is Senthika asking, till what extent will local bylaws will be considered mandate, etc. I will leave that. Can I ask, I think, in some ways that question was, taken up and answered earlier, but I will request one of the speakers to come, Jayesh or our Parag Bhai, to see if they can answer that question. The last one, Dilip Gaur, I want to understand if this competition is for architectural design or for innovative concept for an affordable housing or slum rehabilitation. It is for innovation, yes, not confined to affordable housing or slum rehabilitation. You can take any project. It can be an existing project. It can be a project that is underway and is, let us say, completing in the next 2-3 years. I hope that answers his question. I request you all to look at the chat box for profiles of all these distinguished jury members here, and you will get some kind of an insight into what they represent and how you will perhaps, your design and your entry will also be looked at by these people. What do you say, Jayesh? Yes. There are a few more questions. I'll take them up later.
Thank you, Hari. First of all, thank you, 𝗘𝗃𝗧𝗍𝗃, initiative for several years and continuing for current year as well, and inviting me to be part of this wonderful activity. So I really appreciate and glad to join. Again, thanks all the panelists for continuing supporting such wonderful activities over and over again. Thanks, Anand, for bringing IGBC as part of this and joining hands for this wonderful competition. For the evening, I just want to share a few things as an architect, planner, and the way I see such competition is to really define the base of the entire exercise. When we speak for quality of life, and I go back to about 30+ years where I did a research paper while accept as part of my thesis project, which was slum redevelopment, and worked with a lot of experts at that time, Meera Mehta, Dinesh Mehta, and many more, spending almost 9 months in this research. When I started spending time with such developments, the more and more I think that whether I'm helping them or they are helping me to understand how to become a better human being. So that was the profound experience while working on that research. When I say that quality of life, and we need to really soul search when we say quality of life for this particular competition, what do we mean by that? Similarly, like for example, happiness. Today, most of us don't even get a feeling of happiness even with big achievements, versus when I see people living in such a smaller footprint with limited resources, with smaller achievements, smaller material gains, they feel more happier than probably today we feel happy. So sense of happiness, definition of happiness, all is up for question when we look for competition and look for ideas to solve happiness. And so it will really be a unique experience, a two-way street to improve our way of looking at life while working on such competition and trying to help improve us as well as help improve quality of life, social issues, and even some of the infrastructure issues, so forth. Similarly, when we talk sustainability, which is used more and more frequently and used probably too much nowadays, the way they live with very minimal is sustainable by itself, but it's not coming out of conscious decision. It's more because they don't have a means to spend, so they kind of are confined with their definition of sustainability in such areas, whether it's a rural or urban slums or affordable housing communities. So I would encourage the participants to define what we mean by sustainability when working on such projects, because it has to be aligned in the context of this particular exercise. Similarly, social aspects, the lot of lessons to learn the way which particular neighborhoods are living, the boundaries, individual boundaries and identities are very blurred in such developments, that this is my area, this is your area, this is our area. All those spatial boundaries are very blurred, and they really negotiate well in terms of their community space, share the sense of sharing, even inclusiveness, animals, space, how they take care of neighbors, animals. All that is wonderful to learn from, and just a sense of organization is needed with a smaller change here and there, and providing for more infrastructure in terms of hygiene, health, and so forth. So in all aspects, the way I look at it, it's more two-way street, learning from the way they live, and how do we really use the sense of architecture and spatial organization, architectural detailing, using right materials, all that. With that, we can shape up solutions in a more unique way. Is the way I'm looking at it. It's very crucial for all of us to join hands to work on such a issue, because after almost 75 years from independence, we are still struggling to solve this particular aspect of our nation in appropriate way. And through such platforms and such exchange of competition ideas, I think will offer a basket of solutions in a regional context, in larger context, to create solutions that can be used and shared with each other. And having this platform, I think after 75 years of a try, we haven't come to a terms to find the right solution. So with young mind, new way to look at it, with out-of-box ideas on the table, and creating a palette of solutions that can be applied, that guides changes for policies or bylaws or so forth, would really contribute a lot. I think it will make a big impact, profound impact, by solving, sounds very small problem or a simple challenge, but it is one of the most complex issue that we are trying to address here through exchange of ideas and competition. So I'd like to encourage all of us to be very proactive, all of you to come up with ideas, take up and even encourage your friends, your colleagues, even your community, neighborhoods, even engineering students, even architecture students, interior students, planners work together and invite a lot of your colleagues to join this competition. I think the more the better. We can all together contribute to make a big change and help find the right solutions. So that's how I'm looking at it. And especially in current COVID situation, we learn what is the social distancing and all other challenges that new environment has brought us. So how do we bring this another element in the design while we solve this problem? Would be very interesting to look at it. So really encourage all of you to participate and come forward. Thank you.
Sure. Some of you have been asking for the link to the brochure. It has been inserted once again there. You could look at that. Thank you, Jayesh, for those notes, and I'm sure it will help them to see that they craft or refine what they want to present as an entry. Before I invite Parag Udani, Bhai, would you want to speak something, or should I let Parag speak? Okay, Parag Udani, can I request you now to say a few words, share? I know you have a lot to share. Please listen to him carefully because he has many multiple things to offer you as insights. He has worked on design contests of this kind in the past. Marina Joseph, I will be inviting you next after Parag. Over to you, Parag Udani, if you're there.
Thank you, Hariji. Good evening to all jury members, competition participants, and friends. It's a privilege for me to be here in two capacities. One is to share my experience as someone who took part in the season 1, and second one is to second one is itself as a participant of season 2. So thank you, 𝗘𝗃𝗃 and INHAF for giving me this opportunity to be part of this August panel. I'd like to briefly, just for half a minute, speak about any ideas competition. Generally, we have that feeling that what are we going to gain out by taking part in an ideas competition. This is generally a thought which any student or any young practitioners would have, that when something is not going to fructify, what's the use of using our energy, spending our energy and time on something like this. But I would like to tell you from my experience till now and from the experience of taking part in season 1, that this is an opportunity to fly actually. It's an opportunity whereby we can bring in new ideas. Bringing new ideas in the sense that there's no baggage of lot of other things which actually we have to face when you actually execute a project, which includes bylaws and which includes lot of other detailing. So here there's an opportunity that you just express your ideas which are there as a practitioner or as an engineer or as an architect or whatever you are. So I wish that every one of us takes this ideas competition on a big way and see to it that we bring out the best in whatever we have in terms of ideas and share with the competition. Briefly, if I speak about my experience regarding the season 1, I like to bring something as a backdrop. I had the fortune of working on an EWS affordable housing for Rajkot Municipal Corporation in 2014. And fortunately, for all the efforts that we could do, it won the first prize in the affordable housing category in 2016. It was awarded by HUDCO as the first prize. So we had that inclination of working in this type of affordable housing projects. But there are a lot of things which we could not implement because it's a social housing project. Maybe we didn't know how to do the project at that point of time, and a lot of other things. But there are a few ideas which are ideal ideas, but we could not do it. There are a few ideas which we learned from doing this project. So when this opportunity came to us, we jumped into it because we wanted to see to it that whatever we have learned from our previous experience, whether are we able to carry that forward into something else, are we able to build on it, are we able to do something more also which we could not do in the previous projects, in the previous executed project. So, and once again, the idea, that role of an ideas competition played a very important role because there was no baggage of lot of things of an executed project which comes along when you do a project in a professional field. Here it was all about bringing whatever we could think about and whatever we knew and whatever we could study of what an ideal house and housing for this category of people should be. Uh, uh, and the second reason is that in our housing project which we did, we were convinced about the low-rise high-density typology, which is an ideal housing typology for our context and for this type of people. So we wanted to challenge ourselves that whatever the authority and whatever other consultants do in the society today about mid-rise and high-rise housing typologies, how can we try to do something more meaningful in a low-rise typology also? So that was the second reason why we wanted to challenge ourselves. The best part about this competition was that you had to take an existing project so that you have qualitative as well as quantitative data of the existing project which is already there and functioning as a society. So you have the opportunity to compare that with whatever you are able to think about. So that was a big plus of taking up an existing project, and I congratulate INHAF for putting this as a parameter. Otherwise, what happens that if you just take something out of the blue, it becomes very difficult to organize yourself and then to compare also that what you have been able to do better or you have not been able to do better in any case. So we wanted to challenge ourselves that how can we do something better with our philosophy of thought of low-rise high density in a site which is built, which has a mid-rise type of development already there. There are a few other independent yet all interconnected points which I like to mention over here and which are directly or indirectly related to the competition. First is housing of this type helps us to understand the conditions in which people of our country and people of most of the developing and underdeveloped countries live. I tell you that we are actually not privy to any of this type of people who actually live and how do they live, where do they live. It is just our notion of people as Indians and they live, and whether they are slum dwellers or they are urban or rich people, but we actually do not know how they live. So this becomes an opportunity for us to study the people, how do they live, and I am very sure that once you start studying this type of people and the way they live, their house and their neighborhood, it will definitely bring empathy in us and it will make us more humane, which I think is very essential to making us better people, and first as better people of the country and then possibly better designers of the country. This is something which Jayesh Bhai also recently mentioned in some different words. For participating in the first set of first season one by the INHAF competition was instrumental in making me sensitive to such realities. So this was a very important point for me. The second one is the competition aimed at looking at the future of small housing and houses and housing both. But yet it wanted all the participants to remain grounded to the context in which we are doing it. So we want to fly also, and yet we want to remain connected to the ground also. So these are the two different polarities that the competition intended us to take part into. That was something which I appreciated a lot. Third point is housing can be looked at from many different parameters. From the most primitive of being just a number game of FSI and density and parking and heights and ground coverage and so on and so forth. But it can stretch up to how much we can change the quality of life of people who stay in there. So there are a lot of parameters which we can address, and the competition expects us to encourage and work on all the parameters from number game, right? Starting just from the number game to the entire gamut of bringing the good quality of life in the neighborhood and within the unit. And once we start addressing, how can we address people more? So once we start thinking of house and housing in terms of people and not as a built mass in terms of walls and slab, possibly our attitude will change a lot, and it will bring from us very meaningful design solutions which will be appropriate and meaningful to the people who are going to utilize it. And the last point I would like to mention is that there are studies. This is an opportunity. Everybody has mentioned that this should be a learning exercise. Every jury member has almost mentioned this. I feel that this is a learning exercise for all of us. What we need to do is that we make effort in participating in the competition, and then when everybody participates, there's an opportunity for us to learn from 10, 20, 30, 50 participants, 100 participants who come as part of their as part of this entry. This peer learning from others is also critical in our own growth, our own understanding about the ideal or meaningful housing house and housing typology that we derive. I've always felt that this type of divergent yet appropriate design conversations and debates should reach at many levels. Unless it becomes mainstream and it reaches to the decision makers and the academics, it will be of very less use. So I'm always tempted to be part of any diaspora where there is an opportunity whereby this larger level design, larger level habitation discussions can happen. And that was also one of my larger level reasons for taking part in season 1. And once again, it was an enriching experience. And so me and my office, all of us are quite eager to take part in the season 2 also. I wish all the participants the best luck, and let's try to make the best out of it so that we can try to make a small house and housing a better place to live for the people of the country.
Thank you.
The second part of my presentation, which 𝗘𝗃𝗧 wanted me to, was to share the proposal that we had done. Now, 𝗘𝗃𝗧, do we have the time to do that?
Well, I'll say it's 6:45. We must listen to others. There are 2 more speakers, but we could spend another 3-4 minutes. Yeah.
Arisha, what I suggest is
Let
this.
him.
Parag Saab,
Yes.
what I suggest is this, that let us go to the 2 more speakers.
Okay.
And then I think depending on how time becomes available, we'll come back on that. Because
Sure,
I think
sure.
I think it will be very important to share that, but let's defer it for the time being. But we'll come back to that.
Sure, whatever, how much time permits.
We'll come back on. We'll come back on.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you first for sharing those insights. Marina Joseph, can I request you for, to see whatever you would want to share? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I actually won't take up too much time because I think everyone who's spoken before me has covered quite a few of the points. What I do want to maybe just talk about within the competition is, like 𝗘𝗃𝗧 said, the slum component, because those are 2 components within.
And Marina, before you speak, let me give them all the context of what you do as inspiring work. Let me tell you that Marina has been working with, how many slums do you work in, Marina? Can you give them an idea? Don't be modest.
I mean, it's me, YUVA as an organization.
YUVA as an organization,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we work in around 50 to 60 slums.
In how many towns? Can you give them an idea?
In around 6 towns. Yeah.
You see that. So you see, she comes from a very, very deep embedded context when it comes to such informal settlements. Over to you, Marina.
Yeah. I think it's actually more than 6. It's 6 within the Mumbai metropolitan. Anyway, okay. I'll go ahead with the.
Sure, please.
So just within, if you look at this competition, if you look at slums particularly, within the housing continuum, where on one side of the continuum you have homeless and those who aren't able to access even shelter, and on the other end of the continuum you have people who are able to access land and tenure security and have a completely secure housing. Slums are located somewhere on one side of that continuum, where you can term many slums as inadequate housing, and some of them are actually fairly adequate. They just require some sort of upgradation, some retrofitting, etc., that needs to be done. And the good thing about the second season of this competition is that that component has also been included. When you talk about slum redevelopment, which is one project, one component of the competition, you can select a slum redevelopment project that is existing. Of course, this is one. Slum redevelopment is a way of the state formalizing this form of slum housing. And unfortunately, all slum redevelopment today is categorized as affordable housing, or housing for all, comes under the housing for all scheme. But this competition allows you to reimagine what these slum redevelopment projects are. You can take examples of the slum rehabilitation scheme in Mumbai, in Delhi, the in-situ slum rehabilitation component of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, some of the older BSUP projects under the JNNURM, or any other state or local government housing scheme that has looked at slum redevelopment of an existing slum. what is interesting and most exciting to me is that you can think about lowering FSIs, lowering densities, provisioning of basic services and infrastructure, which is what often these existing slum redevelopment projects lack. So, because this is a competition, you can expand that imagination, sort of keep aside what is currently there, and think of how this sort of housing can actually provide for what people's needs are. Like I mentioned earlier, and it's in the brochure as well, what's new about this season is that it's looking at in situ slum upgradation projects. And in fact, in situ slum upgradation projects actually what is the most preferred choice of residents themselves. So you could maybe take up cases of the beneficiary-led component under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, some of the older BSUP upgradation projects, examples of community land trusts, places where there are individual land titles that have been given to people living in slums, and then look at how you maybe bring in some of your technical knowledge to look at how these settlements can then be improved. Of course, in most slum upgradation projects, what happens is that people are given a sum of money from the government, and then they use their skills and upgrade their housing themselves. Of course, they come, and a speaker before me has also said this, that they have their expertise. They are able to, without being architects or planners, they are able to plan their houses and build accordingly. But of course, there is some technical assistance that they can benefit from. And as participants in this competition, that's actually something that you all can bring to the table as to, if an entire settlement is eligible for the BLC component under the PMAY, or they have already got it and they've already used that 2 or 3 lakhs rupees to upgrade their houses, what is it that they could have done differently with their existing housing? Just one thing to keep in mind is that people's preferences for upgradation are actually reflective of a reality that most affordable housing in cities today has been created by people themselves. And what people need is some assistance, whether it is financial assistance or technical assistance, to just improve that form of housing. So this is actually a very fascinating part of what you can do through the competition. Important is that just to keep in mind is just challenge some of these notions of what slum housing is and what slum redevelopment or slum upgradation means. And I think that you have to maybe unlearn some of what your imagination of slum housing is, and draw correlations between socioeconomic profiles of people. And when you're designing, keep in mind that you cannot divorce housing from work, especially if you're looking at slum housing. You cannot divorce housing from its social functions, its community functions. So when you do think of what are the possible solutions or the changes that can be brought, whether it is to a redevelopment project or to an in situ upgradation project, do think of not just the house, do think of their work. What is it that they're doing? Because if you look at the data, even country level data shows that most people living in slum settlements don't just use their house to live in, they also use it as a site of work. So how can we include that function, the multiple social functions, the pandemic that has taught us that if small housing, the way it is traditionally seen with high density, is not going to work in the future. It's not sustainable. It's not something that, if a pandemic is to break out in any such redevelopment societies, what is it likely to do? There's going to be a lot of backlash at the way this sort of housing is created in the first place. So just think of a couple of these things and map people's aspirations. It's very important to realize that people also want to live in good housing. So they have needs, they have aspirations, and just ensure that there isn't that disconnect between what these needs and aspirations are and the housing that is being provided. And because this is a competition, you are free. It's absolutely amazing that one of the aspects of this competition is sort of, create your own DCRs. What DCRs need to change? What are the bylaws that need to change? I mean, this is something that maybe in real life circumstances you can't do, but if through the competition you are able to show that something is possible, who knows, maybe in a few years this might actually become reality as well. Because of course this competition doesn't just remain the competition, it's part of a larger network. Through the INHAF network, there's a lot of advocacy that is done. So some of these ideas actually do go into practice. They do go into, demands that are made to the state, to the government. So don't just see yourself contributing to a competition. I think see yourself as contributing to challenging the existing notion of slum housing, slum redevelopment, and just think, I think even last time we had made this point that, of course, maybe they are not people from your socioeconomic background who you are designing for, but it is very important to ask yourself when you are designing that, would I live in this house? You know, does this meet the needs of me and my family? And only then design it, because at the end of the day, these are human beings living in these homes. So don't design for if you're not going to live in that house. And I think I'd like to end then. I know Vishram Patil is here on this call. He's actually been part of the MMRDA for around 30 years. And I think he's been part of many of these slum redevelopment projects in Bombay that have been the blueprint for slum redevelopment projects elsewhere. I think he can bring to the table a few important points as to, what you can think of to do differently if you all are choosing to redesign slum redevelopment projects. Okay, that's it from me.
Thank you, Marina. Very insightful. All of you should listen to the recording. I'm sure the INHAF back office will offer you the recording by tomorrow. Since Marina mentioned your name and of the tremendous work you've done for 3 decades, Vishram Patil, can I request you to speak for a couple of minutes? Some of your insights might help the contestants.
I can speak briefly, yes.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go on,
Should
please.
I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Actually, for the last 10 years, I was the head of the social development cell of MMRDA. I have retired actually now. The point is, I was from the consumer side of the housing market. So I was the one who was rehabilitating people affected by projects in Mumbai into so-called vertical slums. And where I saw that, I mean, to add on to 𝗘𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 said, currently more than 2 lakh housing has been built and consumed in Mumbai through slum redevelopment. And that means around 1 million people are living there. So the number is huge. This is similarly, there are so many other housing types through which this kind of housing is being provided. So we are actually dealing with a very critical element of better designing a smaller house. So very good idea this is. When I see the slum redevelopment buildings which are built within the DCRs of Mumbai and the so-called bylaws, I feel that there is a lot of scope to change the designs. Tenements, of course, are very limited in size. However, the building design can make a lot of difference. So the way buildings sometimes are designed in large layouts of slum redevelopment schemes, they are like long boxes, and then they have a lot of issues of ventilation and light and things like that. Community spaces are lacking in most of these colonies. So there is something which in which something can be added. A lot of common spaces can be created, maybe at even in taller buildings at floor level, or common spaces at ground level. These are the elements which are newly being added into new slum redevelopment schemes, but we have large numbers which are already built. So I find that slum redevelopment, there is a lot of scope, and this is going to continue as a housing alternative for a lot of people. Slum redevelopment is also extended to other cities of Maharashtra now. It's not only for Mumbai. And so a large stock is going to be created through this. So design inputs into doing a better building, better community space, better common areas, and better tenements will go a long way in improving life here. The other thing which I wanted to point out is that in the competition brochure, there is a limit of 2 years. The project, if it is already executed and people are staying, then it should have been planned only 2 years ago. Maybe this can be relaxed to a little longer period. Sure. Since slum redevelopment schemes have not been coming forth so much in the recent past. So if you could extend it to 5 years, there will be examples where participants can go and do that. So I think it's a very good thing, and best wishes to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Patil. The last of the people who wants to share a few insights is Neha. And after that, can I request from Supriya onward, everybody to speak only for 60 seconds, nothing more, maybe 3 points, 2 points that you want to sort of highlight, having heard as many people. Over to you, Sneha.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone, and I hope everyone is keeping well and staying safe. And thank you for inviting me as a panelist for today's event. So having read the brief and reminding myself that we are living in a country with over 1 million homeless people, I understood the gravity of the situation and the urgency with which change needs to be brought about. So on this note, I would like to also thank the hosts and jury members for deeming us worthy enough of our opinion, and also congratulate everyone who's here, for the participants who have recognized this opportunity of making a difference. And since we've gathered here right now, I sort of also see this as a greater purpose for making about that change. So from the formative years of learning in an architectural school, I saw myself being very sensitive towards all the natural systems that work in the world and how intricately they are woven in the lives of all beings. This has constantly led me to acquire more knowledge that would allow me to practice architecture that is holistically sustainable in all aspects, be it environmentally, socially, or economically, and which are the three things that me as a participant would be focusing on. And development in Indian cities, I would say, seems to be steered by economical aspects, with the social aspect or the people aspect of the development being almost always absent. So there is a need for putting that people aspect back into the development. And that is what we mean about livability. We as architects, when we design a project, we design a building, we are also designing a way of living for the people who will be using it. So this competition for me seems to aim at improving that living index, which would directly lead to improving community, and by extension, a nation itself.
Sure.
One more thing, I happen to have opportunity of working on a slum redevelopment project when I was in college. And the slum that we targeted was 𝗗𝗄𝗯, which is in Delhi. So one thing that I noticed was that the uses of spaces, even inside their dwelling units, has mix of uses. People used to be preparing food for tiffin services, or they had opened up shops on the ground floors of their houses. So there seemed to be a very intricately woven mixed of use spaces. So what I would like to suggest is that since livability or living conditions is as much the space inside the four walls as it is outside of them, I would suggest people to look at those voids between dwelling units as potential spaces for those public gatherings or these mixed of spaces that could happen, which would lead to improved livability, activation of streets, activation of ground floor spaces, and all things like that. And so on the last note, I would say that since the world we are living in, it is more about what's more and what's new. There is a need for unanimous contribution from the parts of architects, so that we can ensure that our country's environmental and socio-economic ecosystem is balanced and functions properly. And I happen to have also taken part in a writing competition, and I would like to share one line that I wrote, that architecture is the mortar that binds the stones of development. And on that note, we as architects also have that added responsibility of acting as nation builders. And this is what has been led me to take part in this competition, that zeal of giving back to the society, because I'm a privileged person, I would say, to have gathered all the information that I could and meeting all these people and being inspired by architects such as the jury members that are here. So thank you and all the best to all the participants. And over to you, Hariharan sir.
Thank you, Sneha. When do you think, if I may ask, you will file in your entry, your final entry? When do you think you're going to do that?
So for this competition?
Yeah, that's right.
Sir, I guess
there is time. I know we have time. I'm just asking you. I mean, what is your plan? How are you hoping to do that?
So, sir, I had read one line that work tends to fill the time of its completion, and I am no, you know, I'm a victim to that as well. Okay. But and I would also like to work on every aspect that everybody has talked about. Yeah. Shirish sir and Kirti sir. Right. So I think I would like to take the entirety of that time to work upon my.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So 1 minute for each of them, but let me read something that Dr. Geeta Vaidyanathan, one of the veteran teachers, she's from the MS University again, many years ago, 1990, I think. She says, of course, she's talking in terms of some of the students in her university, Sri Sri University, but she says, it will be a great learning experience for anyone who enters. Sneha, she says it will be a great learning experience, and she says it will be a life-changing one.
Right, sir.
And if I know Geeta after 30 years of practice, she is not a person who she doesn't speak in hyperbole. She's not used to sort of exaggerating things. And if she says that it could be a life-changing one, I must tell you all that this competition, if you were to take part, engage, involve, and do something about it, it'll be a wonderful experience for you all. I'll start with, therefore, Supriya, 1 minute for you, 60 seconds. 2 or 3 points. Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank for having me.
No, only bullets, points.
Yes. The design, what I am going to propose is ready in my mind. I just have to combine it. I'll be focusing on space enhancement, livability, and increased community life with sustainability featuring some green concepts and innovation much needed to break the notion of the smaller homes and the urban landscape.
Architect Shirisberry, 3-4 bullet points that will inspire them. No, he's not there. If he's not there, we move to Anand then. Anand, add 3, 4, 5 points, whatever you want to talk.
I'm there, but I've already spoken. I've already spoken.
Okay. So you can possibly, and since you've heard others, some thoughts might have come to your mind, something might have triggered. 2, 3 things that you think will help the entrance.
One is basically to understand ourselves as an intrinsic part of this society, of this world, and thereby design with not only passion but with compassion.
Wonderful.
And design with empathy and with an open mind for learning and taking as much as giving.
Very nice. Anand?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Once again, I wish all the very best. And here I would love to bring in the lives and livelihoods, number 1. Number 2, again, I would repeat, optimize whatever the way you want. That is the key. We're not looking for the energy efficient one or the green one. Optimize. Fourth is bring in our own Indian way of traditional way of doing things in every element, be it a design, be it a construction technique. So together, let us showcase the whole world through this competition also, how India and Indian tradition of respecting all the 5 elements of nature, community living, all that through this process of this competition also. Thank you and all the very best for every participating student.
Lovely. I must also mention that Anand is, sort of sent this set of brochures and such to about 250 student chapters, with each chapter having about 30 to 40 students. Can you elaborate on that in 20, 30 seconds, Anand?
Yeah, we IGBC have exclusive student chapters in all the leading and architectural school of planning and other institutions. So every student chapter, we do handhold various sessions, and we go take the industry experts and architects of great passionate architects. So as a part of the connecting the bridge between the industry, academia, and preparing the students also to be aware about this one, we have student chapters. And as a partner, IGBC being a partner to this competition also, we have reached out to all the leading architectural colleges, as well as IGBC has 2,000 plus members. Some of them are involved in affordable houses and material manufacturers.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Before I move to Jayesh, to you, Ankita, let me request you to respond to some of those questions in the chat box. There is one from Yoga Lakshmi. She wants to know if they can submit walkthroughs or VR models to represent the design, or are they allowed to use only panels to represent design ideas? The question that you need to answer, if you can, Ankita, and if Arwa is there, she might help you. You work that out. 1 minute for you, Jayesh Haryani, if you can capture some 3-4 bullet points you think will inspire them. Unmute, please. You have to unmute. Jayesh. Yeah.
What I think is this is the biggest opportunity for learning as well as contributing. Small changes, but will make the biggest impact for the nation. We are talking the issue which is the largest segment in the design and construction industries. So the profound impact that you will be contributing through innovative ideas and participating here. I would encourage all of you to really put your heart, soul, mind with full consciousness and sensibility, because these two aspects are going to really bring the right solutions for this particular problem that we are trying to address through a competition. So consciousness and be sensitive. These are the two key things that comes to my mind to really use while you are working on.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jayesh. Before I move to Parag Udani, 𝗘𝗃𝗧, can you answer this question for one of the entrants? And this is applicable to all. 𝗘𝗃𝗧, the question is, what kind of permission do we need to get to undertaking a project under this competition? What kind of permission do we need?
No permission.
No permission.
What one is saying is this, that, as I said, we essentially are looking up projects which have been implemented, projects which are under planning, projects which are under construction.
Correct.
And therefore go to a government agency, go to a private builder, say, can we use your project? And if they allow you to kind of use that project, please do it. We don't require any permission of any kind.
Yeah. One more question.
What we require is a live project.
Live project.
Yes.
Shreya Shetty asks you, 𝗘𝗃𝗧, in the current situation of the lockdown, you just now mentioned it, but I'm still wanting you to talk about it. We are not sure how we can go about with a live project, even though we would love to do so. How would you guide us?
Well, that's a very difficult and a very important question. That's a question that I want to come back at the end of this particular meeting. As a matter of fact, we've delayed launching this competition for many months. 6 months ago, there was a lot of pressure. Let's go back. Why are we waiting? We have not done it. Just about 2 weeks ago, we wrote a letter to most of the people asking this question, whether they find it very difficult to operate in these circumstances. There are 2 ways of handling this. One way is if it becomes absolutely impossible for people to get projects, go to the site, study situation, talk to people. If that becomes impossible, we will have to postpone this project. This is one option.
Okay.
The second option, which is probably a better option, and which has come from Jayesh Bhai and Hari and others, that if it is impossible, we ourselves identify 5, 6, 10 projects of this variety and make them available to you. To me, it's a compromise. And I'm not very excited about it, but we would certainly examine that option in 2 more weeks. We're going to go back to all the people who have applied in the next 3 or 4 days and ask this question. As I tell you, this competition is not INHAF's competition. This is your competition. And we will do what makes comfortable for you, what is workable for you, and what allows you to bring out your maximum creativity and allows you to function well.
Okay, I'll go to Parag and Marina. I will ask you the same question.
Jayesh has a question. He has some suggestions.
Yes, if I may, just to add, I agree with 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 that rather than giving a basket of 8, 10 sites, I think ideal situation would be that you pick the site that's relevant to your context, your city, your neighborhood, and that will bring more meaningful solutions out and variety of solutions. So that is the reason why we feel that rather than giving you a site options, you pick the site yourself, which makes more sense for you to participate. So that's one reason. But we want really engagement where you are really engaging with the people on ground. So,
Shreya Shetty, since you have raised a very important question, can I request you to unmute and speak? Maybe you have a couple of more points to make beyond the question that you have raised on the chat box.
Yes, so I basically live in Bangalore and we are on a lockdown till the 4th for sure. And with the situation we have, I'm very sure it's going to extend.
I share your city, so it's okay. I know. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So even if I do look at a live project, and personally, I do believe in collaborating and working with people and more of a public participatory process. But given the situation, I also look at the risk factors, and I'm not very convinced.
What would you offer as a viable solution?
Given the choice, I might still try and connect on the online forums, but to be frank, I'm not very sure how far I can reach with it. Even if I do want to connect with people on ground, I'm not particularly very sure how it's going to give me those solutions. Even if it's a slum that, that through books and through papers and through online, I might get stuff and I might try to connect through somebody over there, but it's probably won't be the same as I would have wanted, is what I'm trying to say. So even I'm not very sure how to go about it.
Marina Joseph, can you respond? Sorry, Shreya, complete. Please complete.
What I wanted to come back. Sorry, Shreya.
Sorry, Shreya, go on.
No, what I wanted to kind of say, the whole spirit of this competition, Shreya, and I'm very glad that you brought it out. And I think, everyone has brought it out. Sneha earlier did that also. The spirit of this competition is not to sit in an office and develop and design a house or project. The spirit of this program is to go to situations, to go to people, to go to sites, to talk to people. And if COVID doesn't allow us to do it.
We understand that. We're looking for a solution to see how we can make that happen.
So I'm coming to that. Solution is this. One option, as I said, is to extend the dates, and I'm going to come back on that when we come to extend the dates. Like, say, for instance, we're talking about, I think, registration ending by 15th of June.
Sure.
We may extend that. We're talking about, I think, submission in end July. If become necessary, we'll extend that. And if it becomes absolutely impossible for people to participate, we will freeze the competition once again. I have absolutely no difficulty in doing
doesn't help us, 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. Marina, can you respond to Shreya's question? Very specific, please, if you don't mind. 30, 40 seconds.
Sure. So Shreya, I think what you're saying is extremely valid, but if it means, you have a site chosen already, I mean, I'm sure you all will have something chosen already.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying going out shouldn't, I mean, I don't want to say anything right now, but I think it's not completely difficult to make 1 or 2 site visits at this point of time, taking all the precautions, because, you know, we are doing it. It's possible. Of course, you have to be careful, but maybe the kind of way in which you would have wanted to do it is not going to be possible. But maybe once the lockdown ends, I think that is, or if not, you just have to rely on the internet. I mean, that's what it's
difficult. I know. It's neither here nor there. Fair enough. You're being honest. That's the important thing, Marina. Parag Udani, would you have any specific suggestion to, you know, questions of the kind that Shreya is asking? This is a very genuine predicament. Go on, please. And there is one more question you can respond to. The other question is, can we submit a walkthrough video of the design as a deliverable? You can respond to that because you have the experience. Parag Udani.
As far as Shreya's question is concerned, it's understandable that it's very difficult to be on site and try to identify what you want to get as data and then work on it. But if we can have an approach of planning the things in advance and minimizing our requirement of interaction and personal visit to site, possibly that could be a solution, that instead of going 4 times, we can manage in 2 times with proper team, with proper documentation of whatever is required. Possibly that can help in reducing our interaction. But if you are doing a slum project, I understand that without going there, it is very, very difficult to understand the people. Of the 2-3 bullet points, Hariji, you are expecting from us, the first point that I wrote down was it's very imperative for all of us to understand the user. Because we're living and we belong to a background which is very difficult from the type of people for whom we are trying to make livable houses and housing. So it's very imperative for us to know the users, and for that it's imperative, Shreya, that you need to go to site. The second point, that's one suggestion, Hariji, that I feel that if she can plan it well and minimize it, that's the one suggestion that I'm getting. Regarding submission of a walkthrough, I'm not very sure, but last time it was like you can send a file of 10 MB only. There was a limitation of uploading the file. So if it's going to be a walkthrough, obviously it's going to be bigger in terms of capacity. So possibly the competition INHAF will have to rearrange the submission possibilities. Then video can be given. 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 and INHAF can answer this question better. One or two things which I want to express as the bullet points which you asked is that whenever we are doing this type of project for people in this in the lower affording capacity in terms of money and size both, we have to forget the I of ourselves, like I of the architect or I of the designer. We have to try to be we. Possibly if we can blur the I, then only possibly we'll be able to think about them and bring about meaningful solutions which are appropriate for them, because whatever might be appropriate for you will definitely not be appropriate for the type of people for whom we are trying to address this question for. And the third and last thing is that we need to be human first. Humanism will come within us later on, and possibly this is the only way to bringing about appropriate design solutions for them. These are the 3 things which I thought I'd share with the people at the end.
Very elegant thoughts, all of them. One question I'll ask you.
One question, Hariji, you had asked during the presentation was regarding the bylaws.
Right.
Once again, 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗃 will be able to answer it better. But what I feel is that bylaws are for us only. So we need to follow the bylaws. But it is not that we need to be blank to whatever has been stipulated by the government and we follow that in totality. And actually this competition is about suggesting what are the bylaws which are hindrance to good type of creation of house and neighborhood. So that's one of the imperatives of the submissions also, which has been asked by INHAF. So we need to follow them at the basic level, but we are given an opportunity and actually we are made to question that bylaws also, which is the best part of this competition, that what is it that is hindering you as an architect or as a designer, which is by which the bylaws is not letting you do certain things. And that is what we are supposed to suggest. That was a question you had asked in between.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for remembering that. Prajakta Gholat, your question has been answered now by architect Parag Udani. I hope that is satisfactory. I will leave out the others. Somebody is saying the 2-year time, is it crucial? I will say it's not necessary, like somebody said. We will flex a few things like that as long as it's reasonable. I mean, we don't want a building which is, 15 years old. But as our Patil Sahib said, it's necessary that we, flex it a little. We will do that. 𝗃𝗲𝗃𝗃, can you respond to that question that, our architect Parag is saying that you will answer better on setbacks or on what, on bylaws and such? Would you want to respond to that?
Yes. And I'm glad I have this opportunity.
Yeah.
Let me tell you 3 things very briefly.
Yeah.
Number 1 is how absurd building bylaws could get.
Right.
I was designing a project, affordable housing project in Chennai for a client. Now, affordable housing projects do not require any parking. Realizing that the people who live in these houses may not have the cars and the vehicles, but they will have their lorries and they will have this and they will have that, we provided some spaces where parking, so the vehicles and other could be kept. Our project was rejected, saying that you've done what is not required to be done. And if you want to provide this, this will be considered as part of the FSI, which really means penalizing a facility that you are creating in terms of what people need. Small little other example. When we are doing, Harisab, you were doing this. If you are doing a 1,500 square foot house, you had 1 kitchen and 5 people living in 1,500 square feet. If you're doing affordable housing, you have 4 times more people living in the same space. 4 times more people, 3 times more people. Now, building bylaws do not provide for this at all. It has implications on open spaces. It has implications on density, completely silent. So what I'm trying to say, let's give a 3rd example, and which to me is very important. If you really have traveled, and this to me is innovation in design. If you travel in 2-tier railway compartment, you get 2 feet 10 inches space on the upper berth. And time and again, I've traveled to Delhi. I worked 6 hours in the train on computers, which really means 2 feet 6 inches or 2 feet 9 inches space is an operable, workable space.
For a man who is 6 feet tall.
Yeah, yes, it is. So what I'm trying to say is this. If you really allowed to kind of use your height a little bit over your toilets and other spaces, you probably could add 70 square feet at no extra cost whatsoever to your built-up area. This is what building bylaws will do. So what one is saying is there are a large number of dimensions that one should examine in the context of building bylaws and what it will do to design.
Sure.
Imagine 70 square feet extra, Harisab, in 350 square feet house. It's a different house altogether. And just allowing you an extra 1 foot height will allow that to happen. At 2 feet, 3 inches, it will loft. At 3 feet 9 inches, it would be imaginary.
Right. Back to you, Shreya, and all the others who have asked these questions. Many have not asked, but I know these are questions that are in your mind. Between what architect Udani told you and what 𝗃𝗃𝗃 is saying, there is a practical element that architect Udani spoke to you all about. So what is Parag sir saying? He's saying, maybe make 1 visit, but plan it in a way that you got your drawings or whatever else that you need to get from that particular set of people to whom the building belongs. And then see how you work on whatever you want to work on. The second is what 𝗃𝗃𝗃 just now said. It is such innovation. You see, you all have heard about it, I suppose, but the first time I heard about it, I was startled. When somebody said, I can build a car with the kind of finishes that the car offers me at no more than about 3,000 rupees per square foot. And what are you guys doing? Building homes where you offer me at 6 to 7,000 to 8,000 rupees in certain parts of the city, and you give me no finishes that is worth the while. So I'm giving you an example of how you can do a whole lot of things. The world is yours with this design competition. And as Dr. Geeta said, this will be a life-changing experience for you all. I will leave it at that. 𝗘𝗃𝗧𝗧, your last notes so that we can then close perhaps.
Yes. A couple of things that I think,
Yes, please.
That I think I have missed talking about, which must be mentioned.
Sure.
One is this, that there is a prize, the first, second, and third, if you win this competition.
Right.
The first prize is 65,000 rupees, second prize is 35,000 rupees, and third prize is 20,000 rupees.
Right.
I've been advising every time we do this competition that there is such strong ideas, sort of incentive in this particular thing. Why do you put money? But there are other end of the people who tell me, no, we have to do this. So this is small of compromise, but there is this money available that I wanted to mention.
Right.
Other thing that I wanted to mention is this, and this is something very important for us. We have, based on our earlier experience, based on our understanding, we have suggested that 15 June as a end of registration period.
Yes.
And 30th July is the submission of the final entries. Now, we, knowing that we are going through a very tough, very difficult time, we have mentally, at the moment, these dates remain, but very much depend on how many entries we get.
Sure.
Say, we already have, Ankisha, is it correct? About 104 registration by now.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
We hope to have not less than 300, and therefore we'll review the situation next week and then decide how to do it. So that's the second part.
Right. Okay.
The third part that I wanted to mention, Harisa, which I think is very important, is we will reach you once again on the difficulties that you have and suggestions that you have, because we do not want to take any decision about this competition without consulting you. And Ankisha would write you fairly soon very specific questions in terms of what do you feel, and we would try and kind of put them in our decision-making processes and then decide. Two more things. I was deeply impressed with what Sneha said. She talks about the responsibility of architects. A reason I want to talk about it, in 2 minutes is this. Vashramji mentioned that 2 lakh families in Mumbai alone. If we really examine that 80% of the housing deficit of this country is in the affordability segment, in the next 10 years, this country is going to build large number of housing in this category. And if you really do not want people, low-income people, to live in subspace conditions, you've got to examine how do you improve the quality of spaces. It's a huge social challenge. And I think not only architects, all designers have a huge responsibility to attend to it. Let me just tell 1, 2 more things on the context of responsibility of architects. And I want to remind you all who are sitting here, and I do this time and again, this country built 30 million houses under Indira Awas Yojana. And believe me, this country's architects didn't even know that such a project existed. That is the level of disconnect. That is the level of social responsibility. That is a level in which architects are engaged. So this entire exercise that we're going through essentially is a process of conscientization, is a process of sensitization, and just realizing, and it's not much. What I'm saying is this: the improving livability of small houses doesn't require lots of money.
Sure.
Making houses, I think attractive doesn't require lots of money. It requires creativity, it requires engagement, it requires concern, and it requires feeling for other people. If we do that, without question, our houses would improve, and millions of families, millions and millions of children will grow better, millions and millions of old people will live in greater comfort. And this is all doable at no real cost. And this is the opportunity that you have in the larger context, in the smaller context. Do improve a project and show how could it be done.
Sure. So work this out, all of you. Thank you, 𝗘𝗃𝗧. Well, you're about 40 odd people who are present here. Many of your faculty, I know. My urgent plea is to see if you can work out, like our architect Udani told you now, work a balance, where there is one visit probably. And if there are people who say, well, I don't know what project to look at, talk to us, talk to 𝗗𝗃𝗧. 𝗗𝗃𝗧 is one connect. 𝗗𝗃𝗧, you can put up your mail ID there if you don't.
Yes, can I just come in here?
Yes, Maria, please.
Yeah, something actually just came to me after thinking about was it Samiksha's question? One thing that you could do to sort of offset this problem of going to the site is where Shreya's question, sorry. There are organizations working in many of these communities. There can be NGOs, community-based organizations, youth groups. If you're able to make a linkage with some of these groups, maybe you can partner with them.
If you're talking of informal settlements here in Bangalore, you can reach out to me. 𝗗𝗃𝗧 will tell you how to do so, and I will help you on that. Back to Marina.
And actually, maybe submitting this in partnership with a community-based organization will actually benefit the submission, because you will get a real ground understanding of the situation, their challenges, how they feel it can be upgraded. So that's also another very useful way that you can think of offsetting this problem of not going to the field.
Yeah, that's a nice way of looking at it. Interesting way of looking at it. Any other points? Anybody else has very, very last notes? We can close in the next 1 minute. Architect Udani, you want to say something? No, since your picture is showing up on my screen. No, it's okay.
I would like to say something.
Yes, yes, Krishna Bhai.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what I missed to say last time. Is that peculiarly in slum redevelopment projects, there is very little design inputs. The whole project works on money, profit, and things like that. And I felt that even within the given DC rules and building bylaws, a lot of improvements can be done. So these projects are a good candidate for improvement, even without changing a lot of things.
Of course. Fair enough. That's it, I think. We have answered quite some. I'll request you all to go back to 𝗗𝗃𝗧. She will see how she can help you with these things, flexing the deadlines a little bit, flexing some tenure of a building, or the age of a building. All that can be worked out. The key, as 𝗘𝗃𝗧 said, is can we reach some 400, 450 entries? Please see what you can do to talk to your friends, talk to other people. Wonderful people here from SSU. I'm saying Devashim and others are here still. Please see how you can speak to the others. And that's the only way we can get this to be done in a way that this design, I can tell you this, that this design competition, as Dr. Geeta wrote, is one of those very, very unusual ones. It's so much pain taken to design it, craft it in great detail. And that's one of the reasons why I said yes also to 𝗘𝗃𝗧. You can't say no to 𝗘𝗃𝗧. A man in 1977 or 76, I think, was already part of the advisory for the central government on affordable housing. 50 years of a man's life, twice the age of many of you who are here. Such amazing dedication and devotion you can't say no to such people. You have to try and see how you can make this happen. I'll close on that note. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening, and do your best. Talk to 𝗗𝗃𝗧. That's all from INHAF today. 𝗘𝗃𝗧, shall we close?
Yes, Harish, and thank you very much for being present, for being patient. And thank you very much for this wonderful panel that we had. Everyone made a very useful contribution.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And please see that we reach with this idea to as many more people as
Sure.
possible.
Sure.
Please get more people to kind of participate and contribute and see that this idea succeeds. Thank you very much. It is not so much the competition, it is the idea.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.